Today, we're going to talk about safe bus stops. As a school bus driver, you must be able to spot an unsafe bus stop. You also have to watch out for situations at a normally safe stop that can make it dangerous. You see, children are at far more risk before they board the bus and after they leave the bus than they are while riding. In fact, 5 times as many students are killed outside the bus than on the bus. So the safer the stops, the less likely that the students will be at risk. Once the students are on the bus, they are extremely safe. The risk is before and after the journey. Safer stops reduce this risk. In this course, you'll learn to identify bus stops that could potentially be hazardous. As a driver, you're best equipped to observe and understand what occurs on your route. The school district chooses the bus stops, but you're the one who's out there every day, and your feedback is essential for keeping the route safe. It's important to speak up if you think a bus stop is unsafe. Even though we can't fix every problem on every route, your feedback and advice is valuable. The district may be able to change the stop, but they can only do this if they're aware there's a problem in the first place. During this course, we'll also examine some of the diversions and temporary hazards you may confront, which can make an otherwise safe stop temporarily dangerous. Take a moment to jot down all of the things you should observe when approaching an existing bus stop. When you've finished, discuss your ideas. Now, take a moment to jot down all of the factors you believe contribute to making a bus stop safe or unsafe. When you've finished, discuss your ideas. As a professional school bus driver, you have a great deal of responsibility. You're responsible for transporting students to and from school safely and on time. This includes making sure your vehicle is safe and that you are driving in a safe and responsible manner. You have control over many aspects of your job, especially your driving. But there are some things, like the location of bus stops and activity near a stop, over which you have far less control. The key to staying safe is being acutely aware of these other factors that are outside of your control and what you can do about them. For example, let's say on the first day of school you pulled up to a stop that you think might be unsafe. A child has to cross a busy intersection, when you could just as easily pick them up in front of their house. Well, it's your responsibility to notify your supervisor that you think the stop is unsafe. Just because you didn't make the original decision about the location of the stop doesn't mean you can't help make a positive change, especially when the safety of a child is at stake. We work very hard to minimize crossovers, but sometimes it's not possible. If you feel a crossover is particularly dangerous, bring it to the attention of your supervisor. If you see a possible alternative, be sure to suggest that. If the crossover can't be changed, you'll be advised. So what can make a bus stop hazardous? Well, hazards you'll encounter at a bus stop fall into 4 categories: fixed road elements, weather and environment, movable objects, and distractions. Let's discuss these one at a time. Fixed road elements are any non-movable objects, including the road itself, within the immediate surroundings of the bus stop that could create a hazard by obstructing your view and any other motorist view of the students at the bus stop. For example, is the stop near a railroad crossing? Is it on a 2-lane road, a 4-lane road, a divided highway? Is the stop near a busy intersection? Be aware of streets without sidewalks. We try to minimize students walking along those streets to get to and from a stop. Be aware of sharp curves or steep inclines. They can block your view of the stop. Be especially careful when students have to cross the street under these conditions. Look out for trees and shrubs that block your view of the stop. They can be an inviting place for students to play. Approach the stop cautiously. Look out for hazardous road conditions like potholes, cracks in the pavement, uneven sidewalks, or construction. A child could trip and fall in a pothole and wind up under your bus. Fixed road elements may pose other safety issues as well. For example, perhaps there's a permanent set of mailboxes near a stop, which forces the students to wait in the street. In that case, you'll have to notify your supervisor. Now, let's talk about another type of hazard, one that can change from day to day, and that's the weather. All types of weather can make a bus stop hazardous. In the fall, watch out for leaves by the side of the road. They can be slippery, and the students can fall under the wheels of the bus. Plus, piles of leaves are tempting for the students to jump and hide in. Winter poses many hazards at the bus stop. Students can slip and fall on ice, and there are often mounds of snow made by snowplows. Not only can they block your view of the waiting students, but kids like to play on snow mounds and can slip and fall into the street. During the spring, rain, mud, and standing water make bus stops hazardous. Often students will try to leap over a puddle. They may slip and fall or jump right into the path of the bus. Of course, there are some weather hazards that can occur at any time of the year. These include rain, fog, darkness, and high winds. Even bright sunshine can be a problem. It can blind you, other drivers on the road, and the students. Keep your sunglasses handy and watch out for students and other drivers whose view might be affected by the sun. During much of the school year, it will still be dark during your morning run. If students are wearing dark clothing, it makes the situation even worse. Be alert. Watch for the students as you approach each stop. Be especially alert during high winds. Make sure the students haven't turned back towards the bus after unloading. This happens when papers blow out of their hands and they start chasing them without thinking about the school bus. There are a lot of things at or near a bus stop that move and can create a hazard. These include other vehicles, people, and changing events and conditions. Trash is an example of a movable object. You won't find it at a stop every day, but once a week. It can be a hazard. On Trash Pickup Day, be extra cautious of students who may be hidden behind trash cans or mounds of trash. Look for cars parked on the street. Students can go out of your vision behind a car, or they may be playing between cars. Then you won't see them, and neither will other drivers. Always be aware of other vehicles on the road, regardless of which direction they're coming from. And don't expect them to stop, even though it's the law. Many people will ignore your stop arm and flashing lights. Know which students get on and off at each stop. As you approach a stop, think about who should be waiting there for you. Take in the entire scene as you approach a stop, whether you're picking up or dropping off. Look for activity near the stop. Pay attention to the students, parents, animals, cars, and any other activity. A routine stop can turn into a tragedy if a child runs after a dog or a motorist disobeys your stop sign. Likewise, construction, accidents, or detours can turn a normally safe stop into a hazard. So be aware of any changes in the stop which make it unsafe. And remember, your responsibility for the child's safety doesn't end at the front door. Make sure the students not only get off at the right stop, but they're headed in the right direction. If anything is out of the ordinary and you think there could be a problem, call dispatch and explain the situation. There can be a lot of distractions at a typical bus stop. Let's review some of the more important situations you should always be aware of. It's a problem when students are late for the bus. Not only does it cause you to be off schedule, but it is dangerous for the kids because they'll run to catch the bus. And there's always the chance that you won't see them as you start to pull away. Students should never run after the bus or bang on the side. If you ever see this, stop immediately, advise the student that it is totally unacceptable, and advise your supervisor. For chronic lateness or behavioral problems, you'll have to get your supervisor, the parents, and the school involved. Remember, you're not alone when it comes to solving problems that affect safety. Talk with your supervisor to determine a course of action. Horseplay at the bus stop is a hazard. As you approach a stop, slow down if you see the students pushing each other or running around. Parents can pose a hazard at a bus stop, even when their intentions are good. Be extra cautious when students get off the bus and parents are waiting for them, especially when they're on the far side of the street. Students have a tendency to bolt across the street without waiting for your signal. Parents can also distract you if they come to the bus door to talk to you. That's when you can lose sight of a child who has just gotten off the bus. Be sure to account for all students and clear your mirrors before pulling away. Now, let's discuss a very important subject related to the bus stop: unauthorized stops. Never allow a child to get off at an unauthorized stop. There are many examples where drivers have allowed a child to get off at an unauthorized stop just to be helpful, and the child was later hit by a car or assaulted. Drivers were found to be at fault in these situations. The same holds true for passengers. If a child is not approved to ride on your bus, you should not transport them without written approval from the school administrators. You should also be cautious of students trying to get off at a stop other than their own. That's when problems like lost kids and pedestrian accidents can occur. Kids can be tough, and that's why you need to be on your toes. Never let a child on your bus who doesn't belong there, and never let a child get off anywhere but his or her regular stop. Many of the hazards we've discussed happen every day. If you see a potential hazard as you approach a stop, slow down and be extra cautious. In addition to being vigilant about the hazards we've mentioned, you should also be on alert for particularly dangerous stops, stops that are totally unsafe for students. For example, maybe there's a stop on your route that is located in a bad neighborhood and you notice gang activity. Or maybe one morning you pull up to a stop and discover it has been turned into a construction zone and there is no safe place for the students to wait. Now, in these instances, use your common sense and best judgment. If you think a stop is unsafe, tell your supervisor or dispatcher. You might even suggest a better stop. Follow the proper procedures for reporting hazards at a bus stop. Generally, you should jot down the problem and turn it into your supervisor on the very first day you notice the problem. The supervisor will follow up on the problem. He or she may go out and take a look at the stop or meet with school officials and then get back to you. You'll be given instructions based on the available options. Sometimes a change will take place, while other times the stop may have to remain as it is. However, that doesn't mean your input isn't important. There are a lot of factors that go into deciding a bus stop. Remember, when you believe there's a problem, be sure to report it. You may not make the initial choices regarding the location of a stop, but you can influence these selections when they pose a safety hazard. Be especially aware of changing conditions around the stops on your route and use extra care. Never accept any child who does not belong on your bus, and never ever allow a child to get off at an unauthorized stop. Now, if you decide you have any stops that can be made safer, immediately bring these to the attention of your supervisor. Remember, kids are at most risk when they are not protected inside the bus. As a driver, your highest focus on protecting the children is when they are loading and unloading at the bus stops. The safer we can make the stops, the safer our children will be.